guys, welcome back to another episode of Passenger Seat Parlay. On today's episode, I am picking up my very good friend Sean Rankin, and we are going into his 9-year background in the construction industry. Meanwhile, discussing some hot takes about this current president election, and we're about to unpack some trauma on the way. So hop in, grab some snacks, put on your seatbelt. You are in for a messy yet informative ride. All right, let's go. Cue the music. Everybody, this is your host, Valkyrie Rain. I'm with my very, very good friend, Sean Percy Rankin. Hi. Your middle name is not Percy.
It's not. It's Patrick.
I know it's Patrick, but you sound like you a Percy. I just like to give you the Percy. And it was very important that I schedule one of my first remote guest, episodes with you. Because, I started this podcast because I've had, the best conversations in people's passenger seat. And I have been in your passenger seat, and we've had, the best conversation. What? That after work tea used to be hot. Oh, my God.
Yeah, I don't know how many of those conversations I want published on the internet.
Oh, that is true. Okay, that's a keynote. I can't talk about everything. But,
no, you can talk about everything. We're good. I talked about this with her beforehand. I was like, how much should she's like, just be yourself.
I love freaking Hope. Hi, Hope. I love you. Oh my gosh. But yeah, man, and it's so crazy to see you because it's when did we meet? We met I was in my early 20s. What year?
Yeah, it had to be about, I want to say I was about 21 or 22.
Right.
So about 10 years ago.
That's crazy.
So 2013, 2014.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was 24 because we're just 2 years apart.
Just a little bit.
But yeah, it's so crazy to see us as grown ass adults now. You're married, you have kids, you're a dad. Yo, that shit's crazy.
Tell me about it.
Life is lifing. It's crazy. Now, just to give a little backstory on how me and Sean met, we both worked at this facility maintenance job called blah blah blah. Who is no longer in business, but it's not like we didn't see that coming.
Are they out of business?
They're not there anymore. I think I tried looking them up and I couldn't find them. But eventually somebody gonna see this beautiful podcast and they're gonna go ahead and try to Google some shit. So yeah, that job was crazy. That was
Now put them on blast in Lake Worth, Florida.
Oh, Sean said he ready. He gives no fucks. No. Love Sean. Freaking so I got that job via Craigslist. And I remember that was also the first desk job I ever had. Stress-induced job. That was one of the experiences where I learned so many microaggressions by white people. And I had every kind of white person in there. Shit was crazy. You know what? Yes. It was like being on a never-ending episode of Shameless in there. You were the lip. Sean's the lip of the office. Cool as fuck. God, literally.
The veiled racism wasn't so veiled at that place.
Oh my God, bro. Before I even jump into the bullshit,
it was gross.
It was crazy. And you know what? Even though it was what it wasn't so to the point where it was just unbearable. It was just crazy manic bullshit happening all the time.
It was a company that desperately needed some professional management and human resources.
Oh yeah, human resources. Oh my God. And then you know who Boba Fett would have been the human resource child. We all know who Boba Fett was. Yes, she was shaped like Boba Fett. I'm so sorry. Okay, so I meant Jabba the Hutt, but you guys get it. She was big, fat, sloppy, evil. You get the gist. Carry on. Every bias you can have about the lady who sits behind the front desk. Michael, get your number. She had the fucking mole, everything. Everything was there. It was just and you know what made it worse? She was just not a good person. She was like
She just wasn't
evil.
nice.
She just like, and you,
It was like a really, really messed up high school there. That just
yeah, it
behaved
was crazy.
terribly,
Me and
had
Sean were the cool stoner
illegal.
kids. We just get along. Oh my god. Such a crazy day. Like the front desk was an alcoholic.
Oh,
Accounting was cool. I could say I fucked with accounting now. And even
I literally fucked with accounting, and 2 kids came out of it.
that part. So foreshadow. Wait, is that foreshadowing or backshadowing? So Sean met the love of his life, mother of his children. I helped un petite with my
No,
nosy shenanigans.
not petite. It is. I have said this many times to people you don't know.
Mm.
Of the people I am grateful for in my life, Valerie, you are at the very top of that list. Because if it was
Aw.
not for you, I would not be with my lovely wife and have my two
Aw.
amazing children. So
Thank
I
you.
will always owe you that debt.
Oh, thank you. You know, your kids' names are the cutest names in the world.
Yeah, Killian
Pero
and
if you
Matilda.
have a third one, y'all heard him. He said if it was not for me. If y'all have a third
I'm not
one and
having a
it's a
third.
girl, you can name
Nope.
her Valerie? No?
If by some unfortunate series of events I
He
have a
said
third child,
unfortunate.
yeah, we'll name it Valerie. But if I have a third child, I'm
Oh
going to the
God.
top of a bridge and
Oh my God. Don't do it. Don't do it, Lip. You're you're funny. So that being said, just to walk back, first job, you know, I gained 30 pounds from stress. That was the first time I got in trouble for saying a black joke. I'm like, how does the black person, do you remember that? I remember
no.
was I? I was like a project manager assistant or something.
I think we both started. I started as a dispatcher. I think we both kind of
Dispatcher.
started as project coordinators
Yeah,
and
project
worked our
coordinators.
way up because
Yeah.
the turnover there was like every 2 months someone would quit.
Bro, it
So
was
then we became
crazy.
project managers in our early
Yeah.
20s, and
Like
you were smart enough to get out of the business.
oh, well, that was interesting.
I stayed in it.
Well, you're flourishing. Hello. But you were good at what you do. You're good at what you do. Like, give the people a little
I
background
love and hate
of
what I do.
after you left. Like, how have you transitioned in project management now?
Yeah, so again, starting as a dispatcher was also like my first serious job. Before that, I worked in telemarketing. I was kind of an assistant in some real estate offices. And so I started as a dispatcher, worked my way up to be project coordinator or assistant project manager. And since then, I've just done a variation of that
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of moved up to bigger projects,
Right.
bigger companies. And so, went from project coordinator, project manager, to project engineer, um, managed some smaller contracting companies. So I took on a
Nice.
larger like operations management role, and now I'm a project manager for a multi-state real estate
Okay.
property developer, property
Come
management
through.
firm.
Expansion.
Yeah, we specialize in Class B and C multifamily properties, and
Yeah.
currently renovating 2 apartment communities in
Okay.
the Jacksonville metro area.
Gotcha.
Hopefully, buying a couple more and renovating those.
Question. Oh my God, that's just so much. Like, it's so beautiful to see you just grow in that field. I remember, what was it, a few months ago, that whole layoff that happened in Florida with the workers? Something DeSantis did where, like, it was like illegal to have illegals working for you undocumented.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
DeSantis did, well, what he did, it's always been
Right.
technically illegal to hire undocumented immigrants. Obviously, in construction, it happens.
Right.
What he made it a felony for, and it definitely sent shockwaves and it sent labor
Okay.
prices through the roof,
Crazy.
was it became a felony to transport undocumented immigrants on the way to a job site. Um, so it became a bigger crime. So whether I have any knowledge of the people in my vehicle being an undocumented immigrant or not, it now became a felony just to drive that car
That's
or manage
crazy.
that job site. So obviously in construction, especially in Florida, that's a huge part of our workforce here is
Yeah.
undocumented immigrants. And these aren't always people that just illegally cross the border, right? These could
Right.
be people that overstayed their visas for whatever reason. Um,
Yes.
it becomes a thing. So, we have to do I-9 verifications. That's a requirement in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
It's really a requirement federally, but you do it in Florida to avoid the felonies.
Okay.
And
And that's the thing. They say America's America, but Florida's Florida. Okay? You need something fixed, you go to the Home Depot. Oh, yeah. Jose and like two of his amigos, bomb, is done.
Best contractors I've ever worked with, I found in the plumbing or electrical section of Home Depot, and those are my top guys.
Right.
I mean, that's how you meet people.
It's crazy. And I remember I was traveling in Florida during that time where they were like hard on, like straight, no, illegal immigrants, blah, blah, blah. And all these developments look like it was just COVID again, frozen, empty.
It grinded, and it's funny because during COVID, we didn't have the same shutdowns that you had in New York or that other friends I had in other states. We were quote unquote shut down for a couple of weeks. During that couple of weeks, I went to Orlando, to Disney, right?
Yeah.
So it never truly shut down. But yes, those changes definitely took a lot of construction projects and ground them to a halt. And it likely cost us billions of dollars in just lost time. It's a stupid rule. It's something that obviously as a project manager and someone who has to put together these labor forces, you have to double check your subcontractors because it's not like an undocumented immigrant's going to come into my office and ask for a job. It's the subcontractor I hire, right? And we're still liable. So you have to balance this. Hey, look the other way, and you're technically not my company, but also I have regulations to follow to avoid millions of dollars worth of fines. So
it's crazy. And that's the thing too, like America was built off labor, free labor, cheap labor.
Well, that's the thing is, when I say that, I know that there's going to be people who hear that and say, hey, you're just trying to get cheap, undocumented labor that you can just drive into the ground. And that's the exact opposite, right? So people that I know I've worked with through my career that are undocumented have far exceeded any median pay in this country, right? These are guys making
bank
$1,000, $1,500, $2,000 a week,
bro.
Because, and I'll say this, I'm trying to balance with what I should say and what I want to say.
No, fuck that shit. This passenger seat parlay. We in the car.
I don't like hiring white guys in construction, right? I'm not hiring a me. You know what I mean? I'm not hiring a me. Give me somebody who's been in this country for a month.
Right.
And they're going to work circles around anybody that came from the suburbs. And this is their first summer
who's hungry.
job. And
yeah.
I need somebody who's got a family of 6 to support because, that's the great thing about construction is, we have a reputation of being this kind of good old boys club and a bunch of, especially here in the South, we're a bunch of white Southern boys. And that's not the case, right? You can have those people, the super MAGA, we don't like immigrants working right next to Juan that just came over the border 2 weeks ago.
Right.
And as long as you pull your weight, as long as your mistakes aren't costing more work, you're welcome here. That's why I love this industry. Come as you are.
Thank you for that, sharing that. Because have you noticed any gaps in like the younger age group coming into construction? Like, is there Gen Z there? Like, I'm curious.
So I wrote down some statistics about this.
Go ahead. Listen, y'all don't know. Sean should be behind the mic. He got the tea, but we're going to get into it. I'm going to let them experience you.
Nationally, you're seeing that trend. You're seeing younger people kind of ditching the traditional 4-year college and going into skilled trades. Yep. I will say my current team, everybody's north of, I think I have one guy in his mid 40s. Everyone else is north 60. I actually have a gentleman that's 68 on my team.
Wow. That's a problem too. He should be retired.
So it can be, and it's also not, because you can't, I think with the older generation, they show up, they work, right? Which I love.
Yeah.
I also have a woman on my team, and I have an immigrant on my team.
Gotcha.
So I have felons on my team. So
Sean's for the people.
I think you're starting to see younger people go in. With that being said, we're not there yet. If we don't make this huge push to bring younger people into the trades, we're going to have a serious rise in construction costs. Something like 35.
I can't believe you have a beard, by the way. ADHD. Go ahead, 35.
Yeah, I can't go baby-faced on job sites. So yeah, 35 to 40% of all journeymen and master plumbers are going to be retired over the next 10 years.
Ooh.
We currently have a shortfall, and this is most skilled trades. So I'm going to use plumbing as an example because it's one of my favorite trades. We have a 10 to 15% shortfall now. And then once you add a 30 to 40% decrease in labor pool,
Mm.
All it's going to do is drive prices up,
Yep.
which is great news for Gen Z and Gen Alpha who want to get into the trades, because that means your starting salaries are going to be that much higher.
Mm.
And even though new construction is very much dependent on the economy, right? If we're not building, we're not working. When you're in a skilled trade like plumbing, people's toilets are always going to need to be unclogged. People's lines are going to need to be synced. These are things that your average homeowner can't do,
Right.
right? So that's always going to be a thing. If you're an HVAC technician and you
Oof.
live down in the South, and you're an HVAC technician in Florida, I don't
Dang.
care if everyone's broke. They're going to find a way to get that air conditioned when the heat index is 110 degrees.
Yeah.
So, you can graduate college with, I think the average is like $35,000 worth of debt. And I think that's a BS statistic. I
Right.
have a wife who went to college, and, we're looking at $60,000, $70,000 worth of debt.
Mm-hmm.
And, your entry salary out of college is no higher than that in the trade. So the shelf life, right? So if you start in plumbing, for example, and you start at 18 years old, it's going to take about 4 to 5 years to go from apprentice to journeyman, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there's 3 steps in the trades, right? You have apprentice, journeyman, and master. The path from apprentice to master is about 6 to 10 years, right? So a bachelor's degree takes you 4.
Right.
So during that 4 years, while your counterparts are in college racking up debt, you're making money.
Yeah.
And the average, so in New York, obviously the salaries are higher. Your apprentice, you can make up to $50,000 a year.
Facts.
Your first month on the job. In the
Yeah.
South, it's a little bit lower, but you're still looking at 40,000. You're jumping up $15,000 to $30,000 in
Mm.
journeyman, and then the master, as a master plumber, master electrician, master welder, you're at 100 grand.
Yeah.
And you're talking about 6 to 10 years. So if you start at 18, at 28, you could easily be making $100,000 a year versus someone who graduated with a 4-year degree at 22,
Right.
entering the workforce at 40,000 with $50,000 worth of debt.
Right. And no
You
experience,
know,
because people will not
no
hire you if you don't
experience.
have experience.
No,
It's
and
like a
in
waste of
construction, if
time.
you just show up sober in construction, you're
Yeah.
hired.
Right.
That's my thing. I do not like to fire people because I've been on job sites where guys have OD'd. I've been on
Yeah.
job sites where people are getting hauled off to jail by their probation
Oh
officer.
shit.
So if you can show up sober and correct, you've got a job with me.
And
Just look.
and with labor too, it's like once you get to a certain place, you can always expand. You can open up your own business. You can hire guys underneath you. It's a business.
Absolutely.
If you don't want to be on the field, you don't have to.
I have a good buddy that's a master plumber, and he could easily go make 150, 200 grand with his level of experience. He's making far more than that, close to the high 6, low 7 figures
Yeah.
as a business owner.
In your passenger seat, we would often talk about politics. Literally, in another life, Sean's a lawyer. In another life, in another timeline in the MCU universe. So, and it's just, when we first met back then, it was the early 20s. I was a hardcore Democrat. Because my first experiences, especially being first generation Haitian and my mother being an immigrant, she was taught that you vote Democrat, Democrats for blacks, and all this shit, yibbity yibbity. Of course, the first time I voted was for Obama, second time too. I was so ready to vote, voted Obama in 2008. The way black people celebrated Obama was it was just such a monumental moment. You just had to be there, which you were. And remember when
Rightfully so. It was a big deal.
Remember when everyone was just wearing Obama's face everywhere? Every restaurant had a picture of Obama. You go into the restaurant now, it's still there, but it's in the back corner somewhere.
I was at a Chili's the other day, and I'm, again, being in North Florida, this is not a very heavy Democratic area.
Yep.
But I was in Chili's, and this woman was wearing I think it was like 45 and had Obama's face, and just about hugged her. I was very happy to see that.
She was
in
repping.
Jacksonville area. Yes, she was.
And now, the thing about me, and now when it comes to my political stance, is it takes me back to 2016. I call it the Facebook fallout, right? Is when Trump was running, and you saw that was just a sketchy place to be on Facebook. People fighting with each other, and us being from Florida. Well, you're not from Florida. You're from up north, but you have a lot.
I'm from Maryland, but I've lived in most of my life in Florida.
So. Right. So it's here, it's you have a lot of red, you have a lot of blue here and there.
Yeah.
Right. And then, I grew up in Wellington, predominantly white area. Where were you from?
But you were somewhere else,
Um,
Rich. You were like Boca, Boca.
Boca, when I moved to Florida, yes, I moved to Boca Raton. But I
Yeah,
would say if I'm claiming a city in South Florida, it's Boynton.
Boynton.
That's what I claim.
Okay, Sean. He claiming Boynton. He said he don't do y'all Boca bitches.
No, no.
So yeah, so growing up, we were with the creme de la creme per se, and it was crazy when I saw this 2016 Facebook fallout. Like, you know how like you remember people being assholes in high school and shit, but then you forget as you age. And then when I just saw people post and shit, I was like, that's that dash of racism I remember about you, buddy, old pal. I was like, people are
It
just making
wasn't
it
a
easy.
dash.
It was crazy. Like people were
Yeah.
cussing each other out in the comments.
Well, I
People,
think that's what Trump did. And if we're going to get into that, it's on one hand, it's really sad, right? It ruined political discourse in this country where I could
hmm
have my views and you could have your views, and we could
right.
disagree on tax policy or healthcare policy and go about that. We both wanted the best for America. I think Trump brought out that I'm right, and if you don't agree with me, not only are you wrong, but you're the fucking devil. You're going against everything that I hold true. You wanna harm my family, and excuse my language, it's a bunch of bullshit. You know what I mean? There are people that care about this country from both walks of life,
Yeah.
and so I still try to see it that way. It's really, really hard. It's ruined a lot of friendships and
Yeah.
family relationships. So I think that's the saddest part
It
is what
is.
it's done to families and friendships over something that at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
We're at the end of the empire, right? We're seeing it. Everyone
Right.
wanted to know what's it
It's
like at
giving
the end of the Roman
revelations
Empire.
outside. It's
You're you're
revelations.
you're witnessing the end of one of the greatest empires in world history, and this is what's happening. It's not going to be one cataclysmic event. It's just an erosion of our values and really our discourse and how we function, and that's where we're at. And it can't
Yeah.
come back. It would take a miracle for it to come back, and it's not.
When it comes to Trump running back in 2016 and now, to be clear, I'm no longer a Democrat. I'm still registered, but I need to unregister. I'm more so independent now because, like, kind of going back to what I was saying, like, we're taught Democrat is for us, me, a woman of color, right? And when I look at the policy, but the way I was raised in my household, my mother had a lot of conservative views. So ideally, if you write down the things she believed in, she would be a Republican. Versus
A
she's not
lot of
liberal.
immigrant communities have that sort of that
Misunderstanding.
contrast, right? Where they're going to vote Democrat because that's Democrats are for equality, but they have a lot of traditional values, right? And
Right.
and you see this, but I think you're starting to see that go away, right? So you're seeing that in
Right.
South Florida, where areas like Miami-Dade they're in play for Republicans,
Well,
and you have
also, you have a lot of New Yorkers living in Miami. You have a lot of people who aren't of color. But in general, I feel like people of color have now woke up and realized that, oh, Democrat isn't for us. Republican
not
isn't for
necessarily.
us.
I think I
Government
think I
isn't for
think you have
us.
to look at the individual person. There are going to be Democrats who, and I'm still very much a Democrat, and
A
I'll happily say that. I mean, I have some conservative views and some conservative policies that I support, but in general, I would still identify as a Democrat because what's most important to me, Democrats tend to, or at least say they fight for.
right.
But I think it's easy for me to say that as a white guy, right?
hmm
My vote's never been exploited, right? And I
Right.
think Democrats are now realizing that, hey, we're not just entitled to the black vote or to the immigrant vote or to the woman vote, right? We
Right.
have to earn that.
You have
And
to
so
earn that
what are
shit.
we
Yeah.
doing? What are we doing for the black
Explain
community? What are we doing
yourself.
for the immigrant community?
Yeah. Why are
So it's no
we
longer that you're not given that vote anymore.
and
That's
you
exactly how it should be. You have to earn the vote.
right. Even with Kamala Harris, like a lot of issues that
Tread
I
lightly.
have
I
with
love this
her.
woman.
Huh? I'm sorry?
I said tread lightly. I love this woman.
Oh, you love her? No, I'm gonna keep it real with you. Like
Go ahead,
Kamala,
go ahead.
like the only thing with Kamala is, I mean, I try not to be too much into politics. This ain't my zhuzh. The thing with Kamala is, I want answers. I would like a sit down,
Mhm.
and she still has time, and that's why I'm like, I'm gonna wait and see how this rocks.
Not
Like, and
not
really
much, and
just connect. She don't have much time, but she
she
could
doesn't.
do a
I
press
think
conference.
people are a little unfair in saying that we don't know what you stand for, Kamala, right? She was a senator,
Right.
She was a district attorney. Her views have been out there for a very, very long time. And I think the reason I'm so infatuated with her, and I said this when it was pretty evident that Joe Biden was going to drop out, was
Ugh, that was
am
a
I going to
mess.
get Vice President Harris or am I getting Senator Harris? And that was my
Mm,
question, right? If you come out as Joe Biden's number two, I'm not interested. I didn't vote for Joe Biden the first time. I sure as shit wouldn't have voted for him this time. Not saying I would have voted for Trump, and I certainly didn't, and I wouldn't. But Joe Biden just wasn't that guy.
yeah.
Um, but I wasn't interested in his number two. But Senator Harris, I'm very interested in that. Her questioning when she was on the Senate Judiciary Committee, she had some of the most. She was a prosecutor,
I
and
want them
that
to
came out.
debate so bad. Like,
They're debating in September. It's going to
they
be
announced
Trump
that?
Kamala.
Oh,
Yep, they
I'm
agreed
ready.
for one debate. Trump's trying to go for more, but Kamala's saying, "Well, let's get the first debate out of the way and see if you're actually interested." Because
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Okay.
so
He
it'll
want the
be
smoke.
interesting to see.
I'm ready.
Yep, and
I
and
love
there's a
I
VP
love
debate
Trump's
in
debates. I can tell you that. That man funny.
He
He's
is
funny.
the funniest president we've ever had, for sure. He
That's why
is
America
he
can't handle
is
it. We're
hilarious.
used to a certain structure and, je ne sais quoi of what a president should be. I mean, we went
Mhm.
from smooth ass Obama to this out
The
of
most
left
charismatic
field,
president we've ever
say
had.
what the fuck I want. This is America. Grab her by the pussy.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
I don't think that's a great thing. I think it's great that he's honest because you know where he's at, right? There's no bullshit
Mm-hmm.
with him. But
Straightforward.
um,
He does
to
talk around
me,
shit.
uh, again, most people, the president typically isn't affecting your day-to-day life,
Right.
and um, so I think that the biggest role of a president is, keep us out of war, deal with any national emergencies, but you know, set an example,
Yeah.
set something that we as Americans can get behind. And I think that's what Obama did very, very well, right? We were facing an economic disaster,
Yeah.
and he came out as this calm and cool and collected person who was able to, try to fix healthcare and try to fix the economy.
Yeah.
Um, and I think with Trump, he just doesn't set that example. And that's my biggest concern with him. I don't think he was the worst president policy wise that we ever had. I don't think it's even close. But example wise, he's one of the worst.
Well,
Um,
let me ask you a
I don't want my
question.
kids to look at that.
Oh, well, yeah. Let me ask you a question because, again, politics is not my judge. But
Yeah.
obviously, we're dealing with inflation up the wazoo. I was literally shopping on Target before I got here, and the toothpaste I wanted cost $14. And I put that shit back. I'm like, why is toothpaste like, even living here in New York, salaries are higher, yes, but it's like, so are the bills,
Cost of
so is the
living's the
rent.
same.
And when I went to Florida, you guys are paying around the same that I'm paying here, but I have a New York salary. And I was just,
Well, you're talking about South Florida, so
South
that's very
Florida, that
different.
part.
So for clarity, we just moved from South Florida to the Jacksonville area for that reason. My
Mm-hmm.
rent for a small two-bedroom apartment. Of course, we had just had Matilda, so now we
Yeah.
have two kids. We're in a small two-bedroom, one-bathroom apartment. Beautiful apartment. I think you
Oh,
came down to visit us
yes.
there.
I was going to say, I
So
said, yo, Sean was living the life. He was by the water, okay?
yeah, I was right
That
on
was
the
blue
water,
money
but
territory.
our
Hello.
rent went from, when we got the apartment, 1650, then it went to 1950, and then it was going to go up to 2700. And that was our
Whoa.
landlord being like,
That's,
"Hey, I'm being cool with you," because he ended up renting that apartment for over $3,000 a
oh,
month.
yeah.
And now, we're talking about an 850 square foot apartment. Now I
Yeah.
live in a 1700 square foot house with a backyard and a garage on a cul-de-sac for less money than I was paying for that
You're
apartment.
such a
You know?
dad. You're such a dad.
Oh yeah, mowing my lawn and grilling meat,
Oh, my God. You said grilling meat, friend.
grilling
You
meat,
going mudding this weekend?
smoking brisket. I'm
All right. Look at you. Oh, my God, Sean. Well, now we're to the part of my podcast where I like to do pit stop questions. Pit stop questions. So one of my first pit stop questions for you is, how has fatherhood changed your outlook now?
Oh, a complete 180.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you'll remember this. Before fatherhood, I was very much an atheist. I was someone that didn't
Oh,
believe in any God
yeah.
or any higher power. And then the moment I held my son, my firstborn, that all kind of changed, right? Because it gives you, okay, this didn't just happen by chance, right? This was intended. And what it did for me, and I'll be pretty open about this. Before kids, I had my battle with drugs, right? And it was pills. And, I would go back and forth. And I was never a junkie, right? I always kept a career. And that's kind of what scared the people around me is I was just not going to wake up one day. I was never going to lose my career, my home, my money. I was just not going to wake up. And then, before we had kids, Hope kind of looked at me and said, "Hey, look, I got your back, but if you want to have a family, this shit's got to stop." And so having kids, it did that. I'm not saying I've had my battles since I've had kids, but I've been sober for a long time now, for about 5 years, and um, it's all because of the kids.
That's so beautiful to hear.
So it changed it. It also gave me crippling anxiety, because now it's like I always have to be prepared, and I'm worried about where everything's going, because I'm not just living for me anymore. That's easy. Living for myself, even living for Hope and I, that's easy. Our needs aren't as high, but wanting to give our kids a better life than we had makes you double down. So it made me work harder and get my head straight. So it in a lot of ways, it saved my life.
Oh, that is so beautiful. I forgot all these things about you. And you
Yeah.
know what's crazy? You opening up about that. I'm like, I was around you during that era and I never knew you were so functional. I
A
had
lot
it,
of people didn't
yeah,
know.
like,
A lot of people didn't know. Because again, I wasn't some junkie on the side of the road
yeah,
who was like, I need money. I had a career. In a lot of ways,
functional as
the
fuck.
drugs helped, the drugs helped mask the things that would have held me back from my career. So, these anxieties and depressions, the
Yeah,
drugs helped mask
of
them, and
course.
helped me go to work. And, obviously in hindsight, it actually made it so much worse because, when you have drugs and you're dosing right, it's great. I was able to get at them and could talk a
Yeah,
bunch of shit and get about my day. But when you don't have drugs, it really,
it
really
fucks with
sucks.
you. Yeah, I
It
remember.
sucks.
And also, we worked at a very stressful job that would
Mhm.
induce certain behaviors like that.
Oh yeah.
So I remember one day we were driving home from like work or whatever. And it was like a weekend. And I was like, you know what? I was like, hey, Sean, have you ever did Coke before? Like, I'm thinking about trying it. Or like, I was going to ask you for a connect because I remember during that time I was going through my spiritual awakening and I was going through
Mhm.
waves of depression. And even working there, my hormonal imbalance went crazy. I was depressed. And then you were just like, this is the first time you went from chill, Sean, to no, Val, don't fucking do that shit. Like, you don't want to fucking do that shit. Like, you were just like dad mode. Like, and I was just like,
Yeah.
all right, damn. Like,
Meanwhile, during that time, I was busting rails on the weekend and doing, I was keeping the Sinaloa cartel in business. Look, you can't unpack that box once you open it. And if it's not something you feel you need, then why go for it? And that's marijuana, which I think most people have probably benefited by.
yeah,
But the harder drugs, cocaine and
yeah,
Molly
I'm
and
sticking to
pills,
the earth. I'm sorry.
there's very, very few good things that come from cocaine. And I've
And
had some of the
yeah,
best times of my life on it, but I've also had the worst times of my life on
the cocaine.
name the drug, right? It's all of
Oh,
them.
God. You are the lip. You're the cool lip. Um, Other pit stop question for you. If you can give yourself advice, 20-year-old Sean, what would you give? 2120.
Um, yep, stay out of debt. That would be a good one, right? Avoid debt like the plague. Forgive yourself. Be easy on yourself. Um,
Love
just
that.
kind of understanding that the mistakes of my youth didn't define me.
Mm-hmm.
And I carried so much of that weight around. I've done so many things I'm not proud of that I carried that weight around for a decade
Yeah.
and just learning to drop that. So it's like, hey, just forgive yourself
Give yourself
and
grace.
yeah, give yourself some grace and stay out of debt.
Yeah. Next question. Where do you think America will be politically, economically, shit, physically in the next 10 years?
10 years, I don't think we're going to see a ton of change.
Mm-hmm.
I think our politics will go increasingly radical, right? You'll see the people on the left go further to the left, and you'll see people on the right go further to the right.
Yeah.
Economically, we'll have our waves. We've had our waves since the beginning of the modern economy.
Mm-hmm.
We've had ups and downs, and we've always recovered, right?
Yeah.
Even through the Great Depression and the dot-com bubble and the Great Recession of '08. We've
Mm-hmm.
always recovered. So there will be that up and down. I don't think in 10 years we're going to see a drastic change. We'll have
Right.
moments where it's more affordable than others and more stable than others. As long as we can stay out of a major war, we'll be okay.
That part.
In the
And a
in
part
the
of
50, 100 plus years, I don't know.
we'll be
I'm not
dead.
very optimistic.
Yeah.
I have half a mind to take my family, figure out how to make money remotely, move to the woods and raise some chickens and farm some
Right. I
you
was in
know
the woods the weekend there was that assassination attempt on Trump. Like literally, that was the first time I went camping where I had no cell phones like signal at all. I come out, I'm loading, I'm like, Trump assassination. I'm like, what the fuck happened in this serene, peaceful, healing weekend I had? And it was just crazy.
Assassination attempt since Reagan, and they almost got him. To be clear, they almost got him. And again, I'm not.
Let me ask you a question. Did you think that attempt was real? I want to know from you.
I think the attempt was real. I think the fact that there was so many security oversights, part of me thinks that was intentional. But look, I try to look at the conspiracy last. Regardless of what it is, whether it was a conspiracy or not, it was a failure on so many different people's parts.
Yeah.
You know, when you have regular civilians there saying, hey, there's a guy on a roof with a gun, and that guy doesn't have his head blown off in 10 seconds, when I can't go through an airport with too much deodorant.
Right.
You know, there was an obvious, hey, we don't care what happens to this guy.
That's fucked up.
But also, I think there's a lot of crazy people that want him dead.
Yeah.
And, you know, it wasn't a good day in American history. I don't like the guy, but I don't want to see him killed.
Exactly.
He's still a father and a grandfather. And
Hey guys, it's me again, you know, just breaking the fourth wall and all. Or is it the third wall? I'm not quite sure, but I guess I'll figure that out later. So if you're still listening, because this is a long episode, go ahead and just like, share, and subscribe. Find me on YouTube, send it to your friends, listen to some old videos, do whatever you like. Just acknowledge my existence, because I'm here. Waiting to be acknowledged. You know, a little something, a little like, a little share, a little heart. Some feedback would be nice, you know, nothing too thirsty. Thanks. Bye. Back to the episode.
Honestly, I'm not too Kamala with a capital K. I'm not really DT either. And it's like, but however, it's like I see both parties and I see both things. And it's like, one, I want my money to look right. I'm a business owner. I don't have kids yet. I want to be able to make money, keep my money, not have taxes and inflation kicking my ass left and right. You know what I'm saying? But I also like control over my uterus. I don't know. I kind of want to have best of both worlds. You know?
You got to have the balance. I mean, you know, the inflation that we're experiencing a lot of it really had to do with COVID. You know, we shut down our supply chain domestically and internationally for years. And that's not smart. You know, when you shut down production, goods are going to get more expensive.
Yeah.
When you grind the economy to a halt, goods are going to get more expensive. So I don't think, even though Joe Biden caused there was an obvious rise in inflation, I don't think there was too much he did specifically. I think he just had the unfortunate circumstance of being president during a recovery time.
Yeah.
Because inflation was there when Trump was president too. And then people forget it, but it was getting up there.
But
I'm with you. Listen.
But what about him funding the war in Ukraine though? Isn't that where
I mean, that's not the single cause of it, but should we, during a time of economic instability, be sending money? And it could be Ukraine, Israel, I don't care where. Stop sending my fucking money over there. I want my money here. I mean, the amount of money we've given to Ukraine and Israel, think about the first-time homebuyer loans that we could have subsidized as a country, right? And that's money we could have gotten back. The government could have said, hey, we're going to give 40-year loans to anybody under 35 at a fixed 5% interest rate. And, you know, that's money that the government's going to get back because most people are going to pay their mortgages.
Exactly.
Least,
they want homes. Like, we don't want to rent.
And when they don't pay their mortgage, the government's going to seize control of that asset, right? The home, and be able to resell under foreclosure. So
yeah,
I would have rather seen money go to that.
It's crazy. Even living here in New York during COVID, when the streets were like empty. First of all, COVID was very weird for me because it happened like 6 months after I moved to New York. So I went from crazy, bustling, busy, chaotic, psychotic to ghost town, empty. So I was like, whoa, this is weird. But all I would see is like people working on the poles and putting up cameras. And then when the city opened again, like they changed all the speed limits. People were getting tickets left and right because obviously tourism dropped for a long time in New York. Like being in New York, like shout out to you because you checked on me during COVID. That's how you know you're real friends. Your real friends check on you, be like, hey, Val, I know you're in New York. You okay? I'm like, bodies were dropping left and right, you know? And I'm like, New York has a lot of money that they need to make up, right? So it's like, since COVID, they've been catching up with these tickets, like all the tolls went up. And even when I did my taxes this year, New York State had the audacity to tell me that I owe them money. I'm like, ma'am, New York's Lady Liberty. Am I
Yeah.
not the one
So
paying $6 to go up and down your dusty
I
ass city to make
we
some
were
money?
we were texting about this before the podcast was, I really, really would love to move out of Florida. I hate the heat,
Yeah,
so working construction in Florida during the summer kind of sucks.
sucks.
You got a heat index of 110 degrees.
Hmm.
Um, but everywhere where the weather is where I would like, you guys pay too much taxes. I mean, in Florida, the
Yeah,
great thing we have here is we have 0% income tax. So
yeah,
every dollar that the federal government doesn't take from me goes into my pocket. And the cost of living, at least in North Florida, isn't bad compared to our salaries,
yeah,
right? Hope and I do very, very well. And I mean, at the end of the day, you can still get a good house here for around $300,000. That's not true in Metro Chicago or Metro New York or
yeah.
even in parts like Ann Arbor, Michigan and Naperville, Illinois,
And
Minneapolis, right?
yeah, and that's what my younger brother tells me all the time. He's like, Val, just get out of New York, you get your house, da, da, da. But I'm like, you know what I love about New York, and I will continue to pay my money, is the fucking culture. It's the
You
culture.
need to, Valerie, you need to be in New York. That
That's
you
my
were meant for
energy.
that city. And I think we talked about this when we were younger. Like that's
Yeah.
where you need to go. You need to be in New York and you need to have a podcast.
Thank you.
And so I'm
I
super
appreciate
proud
it.
that you've thrived in all of it. I'm
Thank you, man. It took a
really
while.
can't tell you how proud I am of you.
Thank you. Don't make me cry. I'm on camera. But no, thank you so much. Because you know what, too? You were like the first white boy I met in Florida. And mind you, I grew up here who wasn't weird. Like, you were never on that weird white boy shit where, like, because I would have a lot of white men befriend me. And they would feel so comfortable to say the N-word around me. And maybe it was just the vibe I was giving off. It was like they were trying to be black, and like having me around was like a proximity of
There
blackness.
were white people that never were around black folk in their life, right? So you're
Yeah,
in Wellington, they never had that.
they
So
never had that. So they thought I was like the most. And I'm like, we grew up together. Like, I listened to Avril. I wasn't even allowed to listen to black music growing up, black American music, only Disney and church music. Like, I am not the girl
right.
you're looking for. I'm so sorry. And I remember you being from up north, you had such a complex person. Maybe it's because it's you, but you had such a complex personality and you're just different. And like, you were like an open and free thinker. I'm like, wow, like there's more people like him. I'm like, maybe I should get out of Florida. And I started looking at Florida different because I noticed like I would befriend a lot of New Yorkers or people who were just from up east. And I was just like, you know what? I gotta get out of here. Jacksonville, although their houses are pretty, and it's too slow for me. My ADHD, I couldn't do it. And it's
Yeah,
just like, I don't know.
Jacksonville isn't the ideal place. We just landed here because housing was affordable when we had to move from South Florida.
Hmm.
Hope at the time was working remotely. She's an accountant, so the job market's good in just about every major city. So I
Yeah.
had to pull up a map and say,
New York
where
is
is housing
perfect too.
affordable and where are the yes, it's great. Listen, Hope and I would between the two of us would probably make close to 300 grand a year
Oh yeah.
in New York, doing what we do. New York's the number one city for salary in construction,
Yeah.
and she can go work at a big accounting firm or any big company in New
Yeah.
York, but it still doesn't match up with the cost of living.
Yeah.
And so with Jacksonville, hey, our salaries are pretty good. We do very well, and just the cost of living is so much cheaper. Just
Yeah.
property
I don't
taxes,
blame you.
everything. I don't want to live here. I mean, listen, if I live in Florida, I love going back down south. The
Yeah.
food is better. The culture. I mean, there are a lot of fucking white people in Jacksonville, Val, and the food is terrible because
Oh,
of
they
it.
got no seasoning, no adobo.
It is so bad.
Do they have Mexican food up there? I know they got
We do. Look,
Mexican.
so I live in a city outside of Jacksonville called Orange Park, and
Orange Park sound hood.
I wouldn't say it's hood, but it's definitely not bougie, and we do have an immigrant community here.
Okay.
And but if you go 15 miles west, you're in MAGA territory. So I don't live in Duval County, which is Jacksonville.
Hey,
I live in
Duval,
a
I
county
heard of that.
I live in a county called Clay County, which is like the third most conservative county in all of Florida. So even though I'm in Orange Park, which is a couple of miles from Jacksonville, we go all the way 30, 40 miles west. You're in real Florida. You're
in Florida.
the rest of Florida. You don't want to go there.
Right.
That's
what I'm saying. There's two parts of Florida. There's the tip of Florida. The tip of Florida.
There's
That's
South
the cool.
Florida.
And then there's
There's
Florida.
the coast and everything else, right? You have the coasts, Orlando, and then everything else is the rest of Florida. And that's true Florida. And there is a beauty to that, right?
Yeah.
There is this southern kind of hospitality, there is the southern culture, but with that comes all of the bad things of being in the
Yeah.
South, right? And whether that be social things like racism and hostility towards immigrant or just really shitty food, you
Yeah.
know.
Damn.
But
It's
a
a
great
culture
cost of
shock.
living and no taxes.
I don't blame you. And I don't even want to say like, because you know what it is with the MAGA thing? Because we're from Palm Beach, right?
Mhm.
Back in the day before Trump even ran, Palm Beach would only mention him. Oh, Celebrity Apprentice star Donald Trump has a house in Key Largo. That was the only thing they would tell you on the Diva Duck, right?
And
And
Mar-a-Lago, yeah.
now it's like, and then we're not even going to tap into the Jay Epstein thing. We're going to save that for another episode. But I actually have a friend whose friend was trying to get her ass to the club to be part. I was like, ugh, that's another
So
tea.
it's
it was-
another tea, but one of the guys that got caught up in the Epstein drama was a guy who owned a modeling agency, MC Squared. My high school girlfriend worked for that modeling agency. Yeah.
I remember sis. She came right into my third eye. Dark hair,
Yeah.
long, skinny.
Yep, Asian. Yeah. So I don't remember anything crazy. I went with her on a lot of the modeling gigs, but yeah,
Forgot about
that guy
that.
got caught up in the Epstein thing, and it was very, very blatant.
Crazy. Palm Beach is so shady. It's
It
like
is.
when that
It's
came
also
out,
one of the greatest places on the
it
planet
is
too.
too, and it's a great place to raise children too. I will say, like,
No, it's a terrible place to raise
what?
kids.
Palm Beach?
The only thing valued in Palm Beach is status and money. You don't want to raise your kids around that. You know, the one thing I like about North Florida, living on this cul-de-sac, is it's a good place to raise kids.
That's what I'm saying. Like Florida
Great
compared to New
schools.
York, I'd rather raise my kid in Florida with a cul-de-sac, a driveway, a backyard.
Yeah.
I don't want. I'll carpool. Like I'm not gonna
Listen.
be a stroller mommy in the subway. I can't. My
I could
boyfriend
never
thinks
live
differently.
in New York.
I'm like,
I
I
could
don't
never
know.
live in New York. Hope would thrive in New York, right? You could place her in Midtown Manhattan and she'd be,
Oh, she'd be
happy as a
banking.
pig in shit. And me, I want to move to Alaska. I want to move to the
Alaska.
middle.
I have a
want to move to the
listener
middle
of the
nowhere.
podcast who's from Alaska. I don't know who you are, but if you're watching, thank you. But yeah,
Yeah,
Alaska.
Alaska, just anywhere, right? So
I need
upper
to be a little bit
Michigan,
closer because
Minnesota,
Alaska's
Wisconsin,
hard.
but it's nice.
Question.
It's
I have
expensive.
one last pit stop question for you.
Yeah.
If you had to or could, what country would you uplift and uproot your family to outside of the U.S.?
So if I could assume that I could conquer any language barrier,
Which you can.
probably Spain or Italy, right? Those are the first two that jump out at me, just because of the culture, again, the food, the kind of family values that are stuck there. Obviously, being an English speaker, and I don't think I'd be able to overcome a huge language barrier. England, Ireland, place like that.
Okay.
Hope
Back
says
to your roots.
Hope has traveled. She has been to Europe. I have not. I've never been out of the country except on a cruise when I was 17, and I don't really have too much of a desire to go outside of the country. But Hope says, I'd like Scotland and Wales, that part of the UK, because it's a little bit rougher than maybe London. I got to be around real people. She claims I would love New York. I'm not a big city guy, but she says I would love New York because they're about as vulgar as I am. And
I think you would too, to be honest. Yeah. I think you would.
She's like, you can be walking down the road and tell someone, hey, go fuck your mother, and you're okay there.
That's pretty much. That's like a New York on your New York visit checklist. Somebody cussing somebody out, for sure.
We're gonna make it there soon.
You have to.
When you get married.
That's
Nothing's
right.
keeping me from your
We're going to manifest it. We speaking life into the situation. My boyfriend's cringing watching the movie right now. Damn. I just want to say thank you for parlaying with me. This is crazy. Like looking at you, having your beard, your children.
Thank you for having me. I cannot tell you how nervous I was preparing for this. And I kind of paced the floors off of my house today. And yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm not like a guy that's ever recorded content and been on the internet.
A content creator?
Never was that guy. I did a few drunken sing-alongs when Hamilton came out with Hope. We were both big Hamilton fans. So, so I was very nervous. Thank you for having me, though.
Of course. This is going to be a thing because you're my political guy. And
anytime you want me on, I know we didn't get to talk too much about construction, which, I know it's one of the reasons you have me on, but anytime you want to talk about politics, life, I'm here.
Yeah, man, because you're the homie too, for sure.
Absolutely. Like I said, I'm so grateful for you, Val.
Yeah, me too. Once we're done recording, I'd like. Are the kids home? Are they still
No,
out?
so yeah, I told her to take them to McDonald's and ice cream so that I could do this because otherwise you'd have kids running
I would
here. I'd have
love to
Legos
see the
being thrown at you.
Kindle.
Really?
Okay,
Oh,
next time.
they're
Next
next
time.
time for sure.
Did Matilda manifest her powers yet? We're still waiting.
She is a fierce young lady. It's funny, and I'm actually in Killian's room right now. So if you
Aw.
look at some of his artwork, it's right about choosing love and equality and diversity. And
Aw.
this one's Hakuna Matata. If you go into her room,
Hakuna
it's
Matata.
about
That's my tattoo.
yeah. And if you go to her room, it's about ferocity, and we have a quote on her wall by Eleanor Roosevelt, or I'm sorry, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, no, Eleanor Roosevelt, that said, "Well-behaved women rarely make history." And right, so I think it's
Yes.
my job as a father of two privileged white kids, right, to teach my daughter you're not anybody's victim, right? So you're going to be out here with dad operating tools and fixing the car, and it's also my job to teach my son that hey, the world's not given to you, and I'm not going to
Mhm.
have you become a sociopath,
Oh my
right? The world's
God,
not just given to
Sean.
you, and I think that's so it's important to teach him to be a little bit softer, and it's important for me to teach her to be a little bit more skeptical and just kind of a hardened exterior.
You know what? You just touched on something so beautiful, and I love that.
Message. Okay, last one, I promise, and then I'm off the fourth wall. Now, I really resonated with what Sean said regarding how he raises his children because I too feel like, especially within our community and when it comes to our black boys, we have a whole generation that was raised off of not showing emotions, not showing their soft side. So we have a whole generation of black men who feel that they could never be vulnerable. So I really resonated with his ideology of teaching his son to be vulnerable and also teaching his daughter that she's more than just a pretty face. Because in our community and just in women in general, I feel like that's the new thing. Pretty privilege, all that jazz. So I really resonated with it. So yeah, back to the clip and Sean in 3, 2, 1, go.
I can't speak for any marginalized community, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think obviously there are different challenges there that require a different culture.
Different
So I
approach.
can speak for
Mm-hmm.
myself, having grown up in suburban white America and raising kids in that. Again, I don't want my kid to be soft, right? I don't want my
Right.
son to be soft and useless, right? But I also need to make sure that he understands, hey, the world's going to look at you and you're going to have it a bit easier. So I need you to understand that
Mm-hmm.
life is not like that. And I need to teach my daughter that, hey, you know, people are going to look at you like a trophy, like an item, and
Yeah.
you're not that, right? You're a whole ass person who can fend for herself, right? So you don't need to be calling a boyfriend when you got a flat tire. Dad showed you how to do that at 5 years old, you know.
No
So
boyfriend.
it's balancing that, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's true. And again, I think that's true for any community, any person, but I think especially when even if you take race out of it, my kids are going to be much more privileged than either me or my wife were.
And that's the whole journey of parenthood. You know what I'm saying? You're supposed to make your kids
Absolutely.
better than you, the better versions.
Listen, otherwise I would not be doing what I'm doing for a living. There's times it makes me miserable, but
Aw.
it's lucrative.
That was actually one of your pit stop questions I didn't ask. I'm going to ask you one more. If you could be
Okay.
doing something else, what would it be right now?
I'd love to be like a guidance counselor or a teacher.
Oh,
If I could go
wow.
back and do something completely different, right? Because I think I've been the benefit of a lot of great mentors, even
Yeah.
one that we met at
Mm-hmm.
John.
Mm-hmm. He hated
Really,
me,
really
by the
helped
way,
develop
but
my
go ahead.
no, maybe.
He said,
I
hold on now.
worked for him after as well.
Mm-hmm.
He gave me my first big time gig in construction.
Yeah.
Um, but I've been the benefit of a lot of great mentors, and so I think I would love to give that back.
Yeah.
Obviously I have my two kids, but being able to help people, I grew up as an orphan, and then I was raised by an addict. After that, being able to help people
Oh,
going through the same situation
yeah.
would be great, and that would at least give me joy. But it would make about half of the amount of money that I make now. So
It's okay.
this is what I'm doing.
God is good, and there's always outlets to do it.
Yes.
And we'll talk off camera because I feel like that's your journey, and if that's your passion, you should definitely do that. But we're gonna
I'll,
wrap
I'll
up.
look into I'll look into some mentorship stuff, but I'm
You
gonna stick
should.
with this career.
So, guys, it's been our times. We got to wrap up again. Thank you. I could sit here for hours and talk to you, but I got
We
to
could.
go. Josh is going to kill me if I don't get off this mic. Just kidding. He's very
All right.
nice. But I just want to say thank you again for parlaying with me. And again, it was very important to have you on because I burnt a hole in your passenger seat just learning and absorbing so much information and just growing, and you were one of the people that kind of motivated me, and that your voice was in my head saying, yeah, I should go to New York. So I just want to say thank you
Same.
for coming on, and
Same.
hopefully we'll
And
be in my big fancy studio and we're gonna be rich and we all going to Europe. We gonna manifest together.
there we go. Let's do
But
it.
yeah,
Let's do it.
definitely
No,
gonna do
thank
this
you for having
again.
me, Val. And
Yes.
again, I can't tell you how grateful I am for you and how proud I am of you.
Aw.
So thank you so much for your 10, 11 years of friendship. And here's
Yeah.
to 10, 11 years more.
Yeah, cheers. Bye, friend.